Hey everyone, welcome to Kings Talk presented by Captain Crown. This is Tony. With me, as always, we have John. Last time we talked, the All-Star break was coming to an end, and today we're talking, and the Kings have just come out of that All-Star break on absolute fire, winning 3 straight with just an insane game on Friday night against the Clippers, scoring the second most points in an NBA game by combined teams. And a double overtime thriller. It's been a good week since we last talked. John, what's up? How's it going?
It's good. I'm going to kick it back to you. I have a question for you. Based on, the way the season started and based on the way they went into the break, kind of with that last day of school mentality against Phoenix, did you expect them to win the first 3 games and then do it in the way that they have?
Well, okay, first of all, the Portland game without Lillard and without Grant, going into that, knowing that, I was like, okay, you can't have to win this game. And you also go into OKC a couple nights ago expecting to win that game. But that Clipper game was like a big, circle on the calendar. Clippers had the same amount of wins going into that game as the Kings, not far behind them in the standings, obviously, just a couple more losses. So you had to go into their place and get a win. And 3-0, I guess that is a little better than what I probably would have thought. Maybe I would have said maybe 2-1. So it has been kind of a nice surprise just coming out of that All-Star break, especially after that trade deadline and the Western Conference getting better in general. And so it's like, okay, you got to start winning games, and the pressure, it was put on a little more with how good the West started to get. And so to come out of that All-Star break, just with the Western Conference being so tight too in the standings, and the Kings not having a lot of wiggle room to lose a couple games. It's been awesome to win all 3.
Even beyond like wins and losses, just taking into what's 48 times 3. Well, I guess it wouldn't be 48 times 3 because they played double overtime on Friday. But just looking at all the minutes played by the Kings, they look so engaged and locked in. And they're like, obviously there were some moments where they weren't that. Like Sunday's game against the Thunder, that third quarter was a bit of a lapse there, allowing 40 points. And then there's various things here and there, but for the most part, and you can go through each of them, noting you have to win this game against Portland, given the circumstances of it, getting in late, all their best players are not playing. Now, they went in there and they handled their business. It seems so trivial, but that was a big deal. And it set the stage for what they were able to do against Los Angeles, beating the Clippers in LA. That was such a huge, huge game. With all the emotion and all the players, all the commentators, all the analysts, even Mike Brown pointed out, like, you come off a win like that, it's easy to take a day off. And they didn't. And aside from a few moments where, basically a team that never gives up, that being the Thunder, got a few punches in on the Kings did a pretty good job of, again, handling the business in Oklahoma City. And so in a lot of ways, like, I don't know if surprised is the right word, but to be able to kind of string together such a great stretch of basketball in terms of not just like execution and whatnot, but just intent, being present, that's huge for a team that we talk about a lot being inexperienced, a team that hasn't been here before, the team that's near the top of the Western Conference for good reason. They have one of the best offenses in the league. And, they're putting up such a massive amount of points per game and having historic games like they did on Friday against the Clippers that you could almost argue that they're one of the most historically significant offenses in NBA history. But I won't sit here and make that argument. I guess the point is that the way that they're playing in these, and it's 3 games, 3 games out of 82, but it's really tying together a lot of things that we've seen and we've talked about before through the first, 60 games of the year. And we've always talked about this team being resilient, not quitting, coming together through adversity, responding to that kind of stuff, whether or not it comes out with a win. Just to be able to, again, see them just tie it all together, it really makes you think that, this team, despite being inexperienced, they have a lot of the makings to succeed in the playoffs potentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Like these are becoming more high pressure games, right? More significant kind of games. And although you can never, replicate a playoff game, this is just a good sign that the Kings are winning games. And even that Friday game is I mean, that's probably as close as you can get to a playoff atmosphere on the road. Just for preparation and seeing for the Kings to come out and win that game. I think it's a sign for good things to come. They're resilient. I don't even know how they won that game. The Sixers, the Clippers shot like they made what franchise record 26 threes on 60% shooting at home and scored 175 points. You gonna tell me that the Kings walked out of that game with a win on the road?
Mm-hmm.
It's insane.
Right.
And so I don't know. I think that's just awesome. That now that we're nearing the end of the season, kind of making our way. I mean, there's a month and 2 weeks left of the year, 22 games left, right? So now that we're itching closer to the playoffs, it's nice to see the Kings, not really fall off. They're winning the games they need to, and they went in and had a tough game against the Clippers and still came out with the W. So yeah, maybe they may not have any playoff experience, and of course that's going to be a factor when the playoffs begin. But I think this is a good sign right now that okay, they got it in them to possibly succeed in the first year of the playoffs, or their first time making the playoffs, I guess, and this drought or as this team.
Yeah, we've seen like little signs of this team responding and kind of tightening up when the moment calls for it, and like now it's time to do it. You're pointing out Western Conference gets better, all this stuff. You're getting into these games that really do matter and carry an atmosphere and a feel to it that is about as close to the playoffs as you can get. And the Kings are doing what they need to do. And it's a good sign of what's to come. And it's despite not having experience, it's like that's about the best thing you can have going into it. And I guess you kind of asked a question. You're like, well, I don't even know how they won that game against the Clippers. I mean, like, no disrespect to Mr. Malik Monk, but I think for that Clippers game and for a lot of games over the last month or so, De'Aaron Fox, the dude's playing out of his mind right now. And, we talk about him being the most clutch player in the league. Statistically, he is. But Katie Christensen actually may have said it like 2 or 3 times on the broadcast of the Sunday's game against OKC that, like, these may not classify as officially clutch moments, but this guy's hitting clutch shots. When OKC hits, he hits back. When the Kings need a bucket, whatever the situation is, he can do it. And, he didn't have like a slow start to the season. He actually got off to a great start to the season. And, obviously made the All-Star team, but he's historically always been really good around this time of year. And we're just talking about the team as a whole kind of coming together, kind of tightening the screws. I think the best way to kind of look forward at what is to come or what could come is to look at De'Aaron Fox and what he does for this team. And the way he plays and that kind of like broad definition of being the most clutch player in the league, that really makes you think about what this team would be able to do in the playoffs. Take away everything else, like even if the competition's at its highest peak, when you have De'Aaron Fox on your team, I think you have a chance.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, hero ball's a real thing in the playoffs, and that's why it's a league built around star players. You need a star. You need stars nowadays to win in the playoffs in general. So it's nice that going into the playoffs, we're going to have Sabonis, who's just a bona fide star. He's a 3-time All-Star and just a great player. But now you're adding on Fox. He's kind of like, you asked a question last year. It's like, who's the wild card? Like for the rest of the season. But like our real wild card is Fox. Because if Fox can keep up this consistency in the playoffs, this clutchness, man, like that's going to be a really good team. But if he's, kind of lays back and, he puts up 24, but, when you really need him to be that killer and he's not that killer, then, I can see the Kings getting bounced in the first round. So it's really going to be dependent on what he does. Because I think we've thrown a million analogies throughout the year. It's just like, he's Sabonis is the engine and Fox is the driver. They're only going to go as far as Fox can push them, really. So, I mean, it is very nice right now seeing that. Well, of course, his clutchness. He's been clutch all year. So that's going to be huge going into the playoffs. A guy who, when you need a bucket, you can probably turn to him and he's going to get it. But, I mean, the Kings can be a scary team. It could be a team to beat, but like I said, it's gonna be mostly dependent on him and probably the defense too. So
Yeah, that definitely plays a huge part in it. I think there's like no doubt he's definitely making it more believable this team can win a series, maybe two. I don't know. And that's impressive. I think one of the things, though, that can hinder him is he's just got to stay healthy. You just can't, no foot bruises or anything like that. I mean, other than that, I don't see why he doesn't just keep doing this. Because, like, last March, the dude was playing the same kind of stretch of basketball, just putting up like 30 every game, just getting whatever he wants, especially late in the game. Now, they weren't winning, but we saw him playing in such a way that we're like, this guy, I just don't think there's any doubt in him. The only thing that can take him down is some kind of external factor like an injury or something like that, which would definitely cause problems because if you don't have Fox at 100%, he can try to take control, but he can only do so much at that point. It becomes very human,
This guy just seems different this year, and it's because he has a team around him. He's not like just carrying the load by himself. He's on a good team, right? And so, I mean, I don't really see him slowing down either, unless, like you said, an injury gets to him, and he can be very scary in the playoffs. And putting up what he's doing right now, I mean, I don't know if he's going to be throwing up 30 points every game like he is right now in his current stretch, but I mean, he's just a totally different player than he was the last couple of years.
Mike Brown said big time players play big time games, and Fox is a big time player. There's that is about as simple of a way as you can put it. And that kind of carries us into another sort of thing to bring up here. In thinking about De'Aaron Fox, it really highlights how foolish this sounds. And really, you shouldn't really say this about any team because you're just providing them with motivation. But you know what? You want to let the Los Angeles Lakers do the Los Angeles Lakers thing. And Ryan Windhorst, I guess, said or reported that the Lakers are targeting the Sacramento Kings as a team that they would want to play in the first round of the playoffs because they're, quote, inexperienced team, which in a way is true. You probably do want to play an inexperienced team. Why wouldn't you? But two things. First of all, again, De'Aaron Fox, and again, why are you providing added motivation? I don't know. That just seems.
And second off, or third off, or whatever, the Lakers aren't even in the playoff standings right now.
I know they're way out of it.
And on top of that, and to even dog on the Lakers more, I just got an update on my phone saying that the Lakers are bracing for a multi-week absence of LeBron after he suffered a foot injury on Sunday versus the Mavericks. So, I mean, if they lose LeBron for a couple of weeks at this point in the season, I mean, you can almost kiss the playoffs goodbye at that point, right? But not to stray too far from the topic, like.
No, I mean I think that it was a good point. They're 29-32 right now. They've won their last three, but if they're going to lose their best and most important player easily, a guy that's actually having a great year for being old by league standards, you don't want that to happen. That's just kind of an unfortunate timing there that this Brian Windhorst thing would come out, and then this whole thing about LeBron James potentially missing some time. I don't even know if we're going to have anything to worry about with the Lakers. They're 12th right now in the conference.
Yeah, exactly. They're not even. I mean, they're 2 spots away from the play-in. So, I mean, like I said, it's very tight in the West. But I mean, if you're going to lose LeBron for a couple weeks, man, like, good luck. And even if they make the play-in, they still have to win in the play-in to make the playoffs. So. I'm not worried about the Lakers. I'd bring it on the Lakers. Like, sure, I'd love to play the Lakers. Who's the 6th seed right now? That's who the Kings would play, right? It's
the Mavericks.
The Mavs. That'd be interesting.
Which is a team that, like I said, I was thinking about it like 2 weeks ago. I was like, yeah, this is why you should always caution when you listen to me. I was like, the Nuggets, Grizzlies, Mavericks, and Suns, like that's going to be the top 4 in some order. Well, I take that back. The other 3 teams, fine. Ever since they lost to the Kings, I mean, like, what have they've been doing? They haven't really done. I don't know. This isn't about the Mavericks.
It's the last day of February, and I mean, the Kings are in 3rd place. I don't know how the Kings have even stayed in 3rd place this long. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of compounding factors, but they're good and they've had some favorable circumstances. I don't know. I mean, like even after like the Western Conference got better, it was like the Kings can still probably they're not going to slip massively. It's not like they're going to be a playing team all of a sudden.
No.
Like they're talking about like, well, the Kings didn't get better, so they suck now. It's like, That's not how it works. What?
That's how it goes.
They actually got better. They got Kessler Edwards, ladies and gentlemen.
Dude, KE, dude.
KE.
That's what we got. So that was last trade deadline, right? Kings can just never catch a break. No, even though they do the right thing, trade Halliburton for Sabonis. Like, and we all know how that went last deadline this year. Like we don't do anything.
It's the same thing this year.
Yeah, keep a good chemistry together, good squad. It's like no.
JJ Redick's like the Kings got Kessler Edwards for nothing. This is malpractice.
They gave away $2 million.
I'm baffled.
I don't know what the trade was. What did we even do to get Kessler Edwards?
But we gave them the draft rights to David Michino, if you remember.
Dude, that's malpractice.
I know. The Kings are trying to give out hush money about not making that known.
Yeah. You guys don't know who David Michino is? What's his name?
Michino. He's French.
Michino. Yeah, I remember this guy. I remember looking up his highlights last podcast when I found out about him for the first time.
Yeah, he's a terrific talent out of France.
Yeah.
Anyway, 32 years old. But I guess it's just people don't know the Kings.
National media and the Kings. It's just always be just a bad relationship. Really, that's what we get for living in a cow town, right? But
I mean, is it a cow town?
You know what, John? We're gonna live by it. We took it on. We'll always be a cow town now.
All right.
We're just gonna have to move it from Sacramento to like I don't know.
Imagine if the stadium was
the
in
Auburn
Dixon.
Kings now. Yeah, there we go. The Dixon Kings.
Dixon Kings, the Dixie Kings.
The Dixie Kings.
Well, the Kings game against, I think was it on March 9th? Is that against the Knicks? I think it got moved to TNT.
Oh. For some reason, I thought you said like November 9th. Like, who's the November 9th game against the? No, I don't know. I was like thinking, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know the hell they played on November 9th. March 9th, New York, Sacramento on
the TNT. Fucking, there we go. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah, we're gonna see the Kings play the Knicks, and just a world-class matchup between Jalen Brunson and De'Aaron Fox and Julius Randle against Domantas Sabonis.
Isn't Jalen Brunson like one of the top 3 or 4 clutch players in the league?
I was going to say something even more interesting. That aren't Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle both left-handed just like Fox and Sabonis?
Oh my God, I guess so.
Yeah. But yeah, Brunson's pretty clutch himself. I like Brunson.
He's good.
But yeah, he's good. I respect him.
That's nice. Tony doesn't respect a lot of guys, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, it means a lot coming from me, Jalen. But it'll be a good game, I guess.
A lot of people are pointing to it's like, oh, wow, the national media is finally doing this. And some people are like rejoicing. And I think that's kind of strange because I would almost think, and you tell me your thoughts on this, I would almost think, isn't there some instinct to not be like everybody else at this point? I mean, like, of course, it's great to be on the national stage and whatnot. But what the hell, like, isn't it kind of cool to be like back in the old days, being that West Coast team that nobody watches because everybody's on the East Coast and nobody stays up late, to kind of have that kind of feel to you, to kind of be the team that nobody really, to be the Kings. I don't know, like it's the most Kings thing ever not to be on national TV, to be snubbed by national TV. And then they're going to go ahead and profit off your great basketball. I mean, it's great for recognition for the players, and I don't want to take that away from them. But I don't know. It's a little interesting to just watch everybody go, oh, this is great. Isn't this fantastic? It's like they've been snubbing you for this forever, and then they're just going to cash in on it.
I get your point for sure. I didn't really think about it like that because I honestly, I don't even like the Knicks game. and keep it a better game on. I don't want to watch the Kings. Like, yeah, it's like TNT's TNT, but it's like for me, it's like really that's the game you're gonna bump up like an East Conference team versus a Western Conference team. I don't know what day's March 9th? Like a Thursday.
It's a Thursday. It's in Sacramento too, so you get I guess the one thing that I would say here is you get to put the Kings fans on national TV.
What was the other game in Brooklyn?
No, that was in Sacramento too.
Oh, okay.
And they took the roof off that one because it was like a freaking blowout.
Yeah, they scored like 150 that night. But I hear what you're saying, but I don't know. I'm just happy. I miss the national TV games. It's nice to, I don't know. They were just more exciting. I just feel like the teams play better.
No, that's true. At the end of
but
the day,
I hear what you're saying. It's kind of nice. It's almost like that underdog feeling. It's like, yeah. I mean, especially getting boned for so long from those national TV games. But I mean, that's just the way it goes, right? It's like, yeah, now the Kings are good, and now you want us back. It's like when the ugly girl gets pretty in like those stereotypical movies. Now everyone wants her, but no one wanted them when she was ugly. Now it's just like that's how it is now, and the Kings be like, no, we don't want that. But I mean, I don't blame TNT or ESPN not having the Kings on national TV. They sucked. They were terrible.
Weren't they going to put the Rockets and the Kings on national TV?
Yeah, I don't even know why that was ever a national TV game. That was almost like a game that they're like, we'll just pull it. You know?
Yeah, that was
like what?
It was just like we'll see what the Kings do. It might have been like that. It might have been like we'll see what the Kings do this season because they pulled it like in November. I feel like not long after. Maybe it was December. I don't know. I feel like it was a couple of weeks after they beat Brooklyn on TNT.
Yeah, it wasn't too long after.
They're pulling the game against Houston. I'm like, what? No. Why?
No, we want to watch it. We just kick Houston's ass this year. Just like everyone, but.
Well, yeah, you kick Houston's ass.
There was that one good Houston game where the Kings should have lost and they just blew it. Eric Gordon fouled them. Would that have been that game?
That was the last. No, that was the end of that 7-game road trip in February.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Great analysis. Kings Knicks. Did you know?
Go ahead.
Isn't there a movie where like the Kings and Knicks are in the NBA Finals?
Yeah, it's How to Lose a Guy or something like that. And
yeah,
it's got Matthew McConaughey and like. See, Tony knows his 80s coming-of-age films, and I know my late 90s, early 2000s rom-coms.
Yeah. So maybe it's just maybe this is a preview of
Hey, man. Tibbs and Mike Brown, two of the funniest looking guys.
Dude, the Butcher.
I love Thibodeau.
I love Thibodeau, too. I really like this. It's going to go on a total different tangent. I really like those Bulls teams. Those Thibodeau Bull teams.
Man, with like Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah and Luol Deng.
And Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy Butler,
He's
Jimmy
the Butler. You know what's even funnier than that? I'm just going off of things. So Jimmy Butler, like a butler is like a servant.
Yeah. Where are you going with this?
So Kevin Durant, I was reading about his nickname. So everyone calls him like the Slim Reaper, right? It's like kind of cool. I think that's such a cool nickname.
It's better than the Durantula.
Yeah, it is. But he hates it, and he hated being called the Slim Reaper. He's like, no, like he was trying to like get people to call him the Servant. Because he would just serve his teammates, and he was like just like a good teammate. Do you know about this?
That just makes me not like Kevin Durant.
Yeah, it's just like OKC days, dude. Like, no, you should call me the Servant because I serve out my teammates for wins. I think that's the best you could have come up with.
Okay, it's never a good look when you're giving yourself nicknames. Never a good look. That is not your job at all. Wow, that's like just the fakest sense of humility. Like I'm the servant, you know? I am on this earth to serve my teammates. You know? It's just like, what are you fucking talking about?
Dude,
dropping 30 a game, dude.
Just
like you're
run with the Slim Reaper. Yeah.
I think it had something to do with the fact that like Kendrick Perkins said he needed to beef up. Because I think it was like right after Kendrick Perkins spent like a half a season with OKC. I think because that might have been like one of his last playing years. And not long after that, when he got into the analyst thing, he's like, yeah, dude's got to bulk up. He's a bit weak. And then, Durant in typical fashion, fantastic basketball player, but a reactionary, very defensive person. I heard he had like 10 burner accounts on Twitter. No, I don't know about that. It's probably higher. But
Yeah, honestly.
he just didn't like it. And I bet he heard that and he's just like, any notion of him being slim or needing to beef up, it's not even about being slim, but needing to do something differently, just no way. It's like, man, I don't know how anybody lives with some of these NBA players.
I know. And this is a good transition back to the Sacramento Kings.
That's probably a good thing to do. We should probably transition back to the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah. So Kevin Durant is just it's just insufferable, really. And but he's a star basketball player, and there's the Kings, or not the Kings, but fans have been talking about adding a third star or maybe trying to trade or get one in free agency. But I don't know. How would you feel about that, John? Like, what would jump out of me is breaking this team's chemistry, because it just seems like it's off the charts, and that's something you don't see too often. Haven't seen the team with this kind of chemistry in a long time. So, what are your thoughts on maybe adding that third guy? Does it need to happen?
Well, first of all, that's a great point, as I feel like you see a lot of people saying now, it's like, oh, look at the Kings. They're in third place still. Their odds for making the playoffs went from, I think Jason Anderson pointed out, like in January, it was like 35% chance of making the playoffs, according to 538. And now it's like 86%. And so a lot of people are saying, oh, well, I don't know why anybody would say Sacramento can't attract a star, can't get a star to come here. Like, who wouldn't want to come play with them? That's a good point. Like, of course, they're great. They're one of the more up-and-coming, exciting teams in the league. But first of all, what indication have you gotten from Monty McNair, the front office in general, that is a route that they want to go? And two, who the hell do you have in mind? Like, really, who fits? Like, who are you going to be able to sign? Because I don't think you're going to be able to trade for a star unless you're trading like Kevin Huerter and Davion Mitchell and, I don't know. You probably have to throw Keegan Murray in there too, honestly. I'm just skipping around at that point. So they're not going to do that. Who are you going to sign? I don't know. Is the age going to match up with the age of this team? You bring up chemistry, which goes back to what indication have you gotten? The indication is exactly the opposite. I don't think that they want to do that. We had this conversation, I think, earlier in the month where it's like, you start talking about a third star for this team, you're just waiting on Keegan Murray to do that. I mean, at this point, it does not match up with the timeline whatsoever. And I get, again, why people would bring it up. It's one of those things that's enticing to talk about. You get a third star, it's hard. And at that point, you start really jumping into that championship kind of discourse. It's easy for a fan to be tempted into talking about that or kind of getting fixated on it. And of course, it's also at the same time, by having that conversation, it's having a real conversation about the fact that the Kings are playing well, which is in itself good. But again, it's like, it just seems detached from reality at that point. There's really no indication. It's really just all based on speculation and whims, what people want. And so it's a sign of how far the Kings have come. Like, yeah, I don't disagree with the fact that like the Kings are now kind of that whole thing that the Kings or the Sacramento Kings are not an attractive destination. That's out the window. But just because that's the case does not mean they're going to just throw the whole. Again, it's about protecting the core, as Monty McNair said at his post-trade deadline press conference. He's not going to throw it all out the window to try to get a star that's going to put the chemistry they've built in peril and perhaps put his job in peril.
Yeah.
He's got his contract extension from being methodical and waiting for his pitch. He's not going to go swing outside the zone.
It'd be very Kings if he did, though.
Oh my God. It'd just be like the rubber band just snapping right back to reality,
Yeah, honestly. Unless like the stars align, like at least not this year. Because who are you going to trade for? I mean, who are you going to trade to get that star? I mean, McNair is not trading anyone that's going to be worth anything, right? Maybe Davion Mitchell. It's like the furthest I can see him going.
And how much pull does Davion Mitchell have?
Exactly.
Really?
It's a great point. Not a lot. It's a Kings fan right there, just overhyping their players. Yeah, we could trade like Davion and this guy.
It's the same people that'd be like, Davion's like, I don't know, like he's off. I don't know if he's like really that great. And then they'll just be like, yeah, but we could trade Davion to get Pascal Siakam. I'm like, what fucking universe? What planet are you on?
It's very true.
I feel silly even bringing that up because it's like at the end of the day, those are probably just like 12-year-olds on Twitter, which is fine. They sometimes have valid points, but I don't know.
It always kills me every time. Like, I don't know. It's like, why? It's like when you see like the trade. Like, yeah, it's perfect. Like, why would the other team do this? Like, ever?
I know that's one of the most important parts of a trade is a mutual agreement, and they never start to think about what the other team might want or what their plans are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that third star, and then on top of that, for trading for someone, and I mean, you've seen this free agent class. It's not that good. So,
you know what? I got a good transition here to a topic that we did not have a chance to talk about last week. I'm just remembering. Yeah. You know who the third star could be? Who could put Keegan Murray on the bench? Sasha Vezenkov.
Sasha Vezenkov. Vezenkov?
I don't know. I've only read it written, so I don't.
Is it Ian or EZ?
I think it's Vezenkov or
Vezenkov or
6 to 20 people are turning us off right now. Like these guys don't know what I'm talking about.
This is
I think it's Vezenkov. Yeah, Vezenkov.
Okay, yeah.
No, wait, never mind. I'm spelling it wrong because it's saying cannot find.
Vezenkov. Sasha. I'm just gonna look it up.
Vezenkov.
Sasha Vezenkov.
Vezenkov. So it's gonna be Sasha V, baby. Sasha Vezenkov.
Yeah. What about our third star?
Yeah, because I guess
MVP.
what we neglected to mention last week, or did not have time to mention last week, was that Jay Triano went to Greece to watch him play and scouted him in person. And I think the last time someone like big name, I'm sure they have an international scout. I'm in fact positive that they have a European scout that's there. But in terms of like a member of the coaching staff, I think the last time that happened was like Mike Brown during Eurobasket went to. Was that in Germany that they did that? It was in Europe.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, but it really does.
Yeah.
But Sasha Vezenkov, Triano didn't really like say anything we haven't already heard, and there's not like a ton of available tape of him to watch. But from what you see, I mean, I think we were talking about at the beginning of the season. We were kind of saying like, Trey Lyles is going into a contract year. These guys kind of have similar games in a lot of ways. Smart players, can shoot, have pretty good mix of size, can rebound. Seems like that kind of player archetype in a way. I think it's honestly not that far off of a comparison. But this guy could legitimately be on the team. Obviously, the third star thing, like it's a joke. He's not going to be the third star. But Jay Triano I think, made a good point. Like, when you look at some of the best players in European basketball, these guys typically have a pretty nice transition into the NBA, and they do well in the NBA, and they carve out a great career. They don't always end up being the preeminent stars in the NBA or whatnot, but they carve out roles on teams and whatnot. And I think Vezenkov has got a legitimate chance to be a rotational guy. And it sounds so funny because you talk about a guy that you just get the draft rights to. It just sounds like this mystery man that could end up being absolutely nothing. But this guy is one of the best players on that continent right now. And, Greek League MVP. He's got that kind of winner mentality. He has business he wants to take care of with his team. He wants to come up with wins there and do stuff for them. I guess I'm saying there's a lot to like about him. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about Sasha Vezenkov? We talked about him a lot over the last several months, on and off.
I would like him. He just seems like your stereotypical European stretch four in the league. Maybe like like an Ersan Ilyasova. Um, Good 3-point shooter, and that's probably what you're going to use him for. A guy who can stretch the floor at that four position behind Keegan Murray going forward. So I mean, I think he'd be great for us, and I'd love to re-sign Trey Lyles and then maybe put him as the backup five next year if you can't get anyone else. Because I really want to bring back Trey next year, and of course he's going to get big minutes. Well, not big, but he's important off that bench, right? He's going to get good minutes off the bench. So, but I think Vezenkov can be an important player too. I mean, the more shooting, the better, right? If you can get shooters everywhere, then might as well. So, and yeah, it's like those European guys, they always kind of come over, and yeah, not always like star players. Some are, but you think he would have come over by now if you think he was going to be a star player. So, but they usually carve out niche roles on teams, and usually shooting roles or big man roles. So, I think he'd be great behind Murray, just as a stretch four off the bench, really.
Yeah, and I think it's just one of those things too to think about because Trey Lyles is having such a great season, and like I don't know, I'm not like a contract guru, but it's like first thing that pops into my mind about like, well, how much is Trey Lyles going to command? I mean, he's making like I think less than $2 million right now, but my mind immediately went to like Kyle Anderson because I know he signed with Minnesota this offseason, making like $8 or $9 million. So I don't know. I mean, like the idea that I guess you'd probably be. I guess my point is you'd be signing one of either Lyles or Vezenkov because you got to come to a negotiation on an NBA deal with Vezenkov, and I'm sure he's not going to just want to come over here for dimes on the dollar. I mean, I don't know. What's a good example of a guy coming over from Europe? Let's see if we can.
I'm probably like Bielitsa, right?
Yeah, but anything more recent, just for like money.
Not
Come
that
on,
I
you don't know?
of. I mean, Bielitsa was an MVP in Europe, like a bigger name there, and I get it. Like, and of course, I know him; he's on the Kings, but he went to the Timberwolves first, and I mean, kind of did what I assume Vizenkov will do, just like kind of like that shooter guy. Like, yeah, he can score in other ways, and he'll have a high basketball IQ, but he's someone I would assume Vezenkov will be like. Not like athletic freaks or anything. I don't know. I'm trying to. I don't
No,
even
yeah,
know.
but I mean, he came in and he got like a $4 million salary his first year. So
Bielitsa.
okay, yeah. So
Yeah,
like,
I bet Vezenkov
honestly,
will try to do probably
honest,
pretty close to that.
yeah, or a little more probably because the value on that was back in 2015,
Yes.
2016.
Yeah.
So like, what 6 or 7
Mm-hmm.
maybe, which is
Yeah.
probably again what's not far off from what like Lyles is probably going to try to command on the market.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I hope you
Again,
can get both. I don't know if that's
wouldn't that be
possible.
great? Wouldn't that be
I
great?
know I'm not a contract guru either, so but it'd be great if you can.
Sasha Venzikov's like, no, I'd play for free.
Well, I think the issue with bringing him over this year is that the Kings only had like 2.5 to offer him. He's like,
Right. That definitely played into it.
yeah. He
So
said
that whole
no.
thing about like I want to stay here and play with Olympicanos for another year. That could have been just like cover. No, they didn't have the money I wanted. That probably doesn't sound as good.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Everything you need to know about Sasha Vezenkov. See, I'm saying the name differently every time I say it.
Vezenkov.
Vezenkov, yes.
Uh,
Well, I mean, like speaking of roster moves,
yes.
Casey Akpala,
Casey?
whatever you want to call him. At this point, it doesn't matter anymore.
Why
He's
not?
no longer here.
What?
He's been let go. He's going to
No.
have season-ending surgery on his bilateral knee soreness. They're going to go ahead and bring in PJ Dozier for the rest of the season. A lot to unpack here. First of all, the Kings are better off with PJ Dozier. Let's just be honest.
Oh,
PJ
really?
Dozier. The only thing that KZ Okpala has on PJ Dozier is he's 2 inches taller and has 3 more inches on his wingspan. Other than that, PJ Dozier has the experience. He's proven that he can play in a rotation on a winning team and in the playoffs, and has shown to actually be able to have a convincing 3-point shot. He's never shot like over. I think the highest he shot was 35%. in his second full season with the Nuggets. That's off the top of my head. But still far more convincing. And before he hurt his ACL, I think in the 18 to 20 games that he played before he hurt his ACL last season, he was hitting his wide open threes, which is all you can ask for. And Okpala, I think we said this last week. I mean, like, good, he made the team, but that kind of seemed like a predetermined thing. Didn't seem like that was going to go any other way. And he ended up kind of being more or less what we thought. So at the end of the day, you are kind of having a better player in Dozier than Okpala. Do you have any disagreements with that?
At the end of the day, who cares? I assume PJ Dozier will play as much as KZ Okpala. So very little. It's just, we're at that point in the season, unless like a major injury happens and like two guys go down, like PJ Dozier isn't going to get much floor time. Like, yeah, he's there for depth just in case. I mean, I think he's behind KE at this point in the depth chart.
Yeah, that'd be fair to say.
So, and like, he's not getting any minutes. So why would Dozier, right? But I mean,
absolutely. I mean, especially if you have the 9 or 10 guys in the rotation pretty much rolling as they are right now, you're right. But in those situations where you saw Okpala, which would be, perimeter defense is really bad. Teams are getting into the paint, getting to the line, getting spray threes off of paint penetrations. And you need to get 4, 5, 6 minutes out of Okpala. We saw that happen a few times.
Yeah. But I think KE takes that role over now.
Yeah. But my point is that you just replaced, you'd much rather have a guy that's been there, that's shown that he can fit in on the floor and not, exacerbate issues such as knowing where to be or knowing the spacing on something, or really he becomes less of a liability on offense. Yeah. Overall, we are just agreeing on the fact that the Kings, they are slightly better from this.
You're 100% correct.
Yeah. KZ Okpala, though.
KC.
KC is got that bilateral knee soreness. And if you look that up, the bilateral aspect of it means it's both knees. And he needs season-ending surgery for his soreness in both knees. I'm not a doctor. I was reading on the Mayo Clinic, which, again, I don't even know if it had anything to do with what's going on with Okpala. Just kind of a vague injury, just to kind of have bilateral knee soreness, but it's not a major injury because it's just soreness. And if you look up the solutions for that kind of stuff, again, on the Mayo Clinic, it was saying like just resting it, or surgeries and stuff like that would deal with like bone spurs and like arthritis and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's hard to get a read on the situation. It just seemed like a way, and this might be speculation, to kind of let him down easy.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Like, knee soreness.
It's weird. And he'd been listed as that like pretty much since late January. I think that was like after he played a game in Stockton. It's bizarre. I guess it kind of transitions to the next point, because it's bizarre that they went ahead and basically let Dozier go for a month just so they could bring him back for Okpala.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why did they do that? If they were just going to, I mean, everything worked out in the end. And it's not like a huge deal. It's not like we're talking about guys that are getting 10 to 15 minutes a night. Like, we're not talking about that at all. But it's interesting, I guess.
It was kind of weird that you bring back Dozier after cutting him too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why it's just like, you kind of had to cut him, but
it's just that kind of trust element. I mean, like, obviously you're making a good point. Like, you gave PJ Dozier 10 days. You give him the next contract that you can sign him to. You have to sign him through the rest of the season at that point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they brought in Deonte Burton, which is just a placeholder until the trade deadline. Then Edwards takes that spot, and then it was just like they really gave. I guess they were really clutching on to that trust that again comes from Mike Brown. Whether KZ Okpala is hurt or not, we're talking about Dozier being the better player. It's like, how much does that trust get in the way of actually making the team better?
Enough. I mean, we're already down 2 Nigerians. And you know what? Props to Chimezie Metu. Coming out of the All-Star break, looked good in the first 2 games. Looked really good against the Clippers. when the Kings needed him most. So I'm going to give him his kudos because he played a big role in those overtime games after Sabonis fouled out. So credit to Metu. But it goes back to the fact that these three Nigerian national team players made the team, the worst players on the team, in my opinion. Bottom of the roster kind of guys. So it was just, I don't know. I've been very critical of all three of those players making it, just because it kind of seemed like Brown was playing favoritism in a way, instead of like my biggest criticism was not keeping Kent Bazemore and not having a legit backup small forward behind Harrison Barnes. So it's kind of I don't know. Like this is where we're at now. It's like two of those guys aren't there. I could see Metu staying obviously out of those three just because he's been here long enough. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe the Kings can have a couple more wins if they didn't have Akpala and Maneke for the first half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Because again, at the end of the day, it's not like the biggest deal because it's not like Kent Bazemore is on another team.
Sure.
I think if he would really had something left, he would have been on another team playing. But it does again point to, is something like this going to happen in the future? I mean, I don't know. And it's like, this is like Mike Brown's having such a good season. It's like, this is the kind of stuff where it's like, oh, I don't know about Mike Brown.
Yeah.
It's not like obviously throwing anything into question about him, but it is one of those things. It's kind of interesting. And it's been one of those things also that's been kind of telegraphed from the beginning. We're like, oh, it's kind of see what's going on here. And it makes sense. You want your coach to have trust in guys, but it can only go so far.
Yeah,
obviously,
exactly.
as we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Before you gotta make a real decision. But good for Metu, man. Metu is an NBA player, which we were not sure about.
Maybe his last season being one.
What do you mean? You mean
well,
you don't want to see him in the road?
Do I want to see him in the rotation? No, I don't want to see him on the Kings.
You don't want to see him, and you don't want to see Chimezie Metu after these 3 games. You don't want to see him.
It's gonna be like the end of last year. Actually, like showed something.
Chimezie.
No, I don't. I hope we can get a center. Talking about kind of centers, transitioning. These transitions are just coming. Nerlens Noel got bought out by the Pistons yesterday.
Yep.
Do the Kings go after him?
I think a lot of people would say they should, but I don't think they will.
Yeah, I don't think they will either. I think they should.
It would command a bit of money, wouldn't it?
I don't know. I'm so bad with.
I mean, you're coming in to play the final month of the whatchamacallit. I don't know what the actual deal would have to be. What did Westbrook sign with the Clippers?
I have no idea.
Let's look that up. There we go.
Here we go.
We're so smart.
Dude.
we're so smart, dude.
Russell Westbrook.
Russ.
It was nice beating him.
Oh, he signed hella cheap with the Clippers.
Base salary.
Yeah. Okay. So if they could sign something under $1 million like that, then yeah, they can.
Dude,
but
what
again,
did Westbrook sign?
Westbrook says the base salary is $784,000 and $784,914. It says the cap hit is under $500K.
Wow.
Yes. It was just the rest of the season minimum.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, Noel probably just trying to go to a playoff team. And it's nice that, the Kings are finally that playoff team where you might be interested in going. Again, there are needs. I don't know. I mean, the trade deadline did happen and needs were met at that center position for teams. Like the Clippers got Plumlee. Who else got the Nuggets got Thomas Bryant, right?
Mm-hmm. I think Portland's still looking for. I think they were really into Noel.
If I was Noel, I'd 100 times.
Yeah, I know. We were just talking about the Lakers being in 12th place and not necessarily being anywhere close to being guaranteed a playoff spot. Same goes for Portland.
Yeah, 100%.
They've had their ups and downs.
Yeah, but no, I don't know. I wouldn't. He's that shot blocker that the Kings don't really need. But at this point, he's just a bigger body down low. You probably fit into Mike Brown's defense well. And play that backup center position good behind Sabonis, not be such a liability like basically everyone else has at that backup 5 this year. So maybe McNair can try to snag him. Low risk move, cheaper guy. You don't have to give anything up for him like you would at the deadline. We'll see. I'd be happy. I'd be happy to bring in Nerlens.
Yeah. No, I mean, it really couldn't hurt.
No,
really couldn't hurt. And yeah, he's got the traditional shot blocking thing to him, but he's also not got a traditional shot block. Like, he's got the athleticism and he moves well. It's not like he's stuck on that. He's not just some big tower in the middle. He could definitely do. He's just basically he could do what Metu does and just have more verticality to him because he's taller.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know how all that would work. And again, I don't even know if the Kings want to do that, because the Kings want to just go ahead and throw someone in there. Not like he's going to like mess with the chemistry or anything like that, but can he succeed among a tight-knit group that's playing pretty well right now? I mean, like, it would be a great option to have. And again, I don't think it would hurt to just have him on the team, even just to poor PJ Dozier if you had to just, hey, sorry.
Yeah.
Kind of
honestly.
But yeah, it'd be interesting. You'd have like 5 centers on the roster.
Might as well just cut Lynn at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the point of keeping him is. If you
again, it's like what we were saying. It's like it's probably the same reason they're not playing him. It's just like they don't want to out him for not.
Yeah.
Maybe give him a chance to get another NBA contract. I don't think he will, but it just seems like merciful. No offense to him. I mean, I'm sure he's a swell guy. It's a shame the guy never really had an NBA career kind of unfurl the right way for him, but this is the reality of the league around him. And I guess that, again, kind of the fact that Nerlens Noel is kind of that hybrid of where he still fits in with a lot of these things athletically, but still has like a shot blocking element. It's a compromise that's interesting and intriguing. But again, there's no indication that the Kings are even looking to do that. But they might. I don't know. Who knows at this point? The buyout just happened, so I don't really think there's any leads on who he's talking to. It could take a few days for him to decide. But it's something to keep an eye on, because it's definitely a guy that was always been intriguing for the Kings. Yeah, it would be kind of stupid if he's just like, yeah, I'm going to go sign with Portland.
Yeah, like Ken Bazemore. Yeah, I'm going to leave the Warriors and go to LA. It's my best chance to win the championship.
Whew. Yeah, that's reason enough to cut him out of training camp.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Like, later, dude.
Really? You said that?
Really? We don't want that kind of influence in the locker room.
No. Get out. Yeah. Is that it?
Yeah. I guess one more point would be that, with the Thunder game coming up here tonight, Tuesday, if you're listening on Tuesday, if not, you already know what happened, and you can be a fortune teller, I guess, for this few seconds here. But Fox is questionable with the left wrist thing, and again, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, it's always a mouthful. Is going to be out again. It'll be really interesting. We were just talking about at the beginning of the podcast how this team's sticking with it and staying tight and responsive and sharp. Without Fox, it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the team does if Fox indeed doesn't play. At this point, as of recording, we don't know. Questionable, but definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yes, it is. A game you should win still without Fox, but obviously it can become tougher without him. And so, yeah, definitely something to keep your eye on for tonight's game.
Yeah.
But to wrap it up, the Kings do play the Thunder tonight, looking for their 4th straight win. Fox questionable. If he plays tonight, he'll be looking to extend his Sacramento Kings record of consecutive 30-point game or consecutive games with 30 points scored or more. He's looking to push that to 8 if he does, in fact, play. He's playing out of his mind right now. So that's about it. Thanks for tuning in, John. Anything to close up?
No, I think that's it. Just looking forward to Chimezie Metu closing out the season strong.
Okay. Well, thank you all for tuning in. And until next time, have a good one.